Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's really nice to be here again. I presented at ESRAD in 2019 before the pandemic. Um, so let me just share. Okay. So today I'd like to talk about coaching higher education students. I'd like to start with setting the scene, just to kind of talk a bit about what's happening currently in higher education sector. And I can probably talk mostly from the UK perspective. Then I'm going to discuss 4 research studies that I conducted along with some colleagues. So that's why I called it a case study, because all the studies were done with the same student population in a London university. And then I just wanted to discuss some practical implications that come out from the studies, and also discuss potential sources of funding for student coaching. So in a way, I'll give you a clue in the last part of what the challenge really is. So first of all, there has been a really strong focus on employability of students in the UK in particular, but probably in other countries as well. So we have graduates and universities want to prepare students for workplace. And students, particularly those from less privileged social backgrounds, face a lot of issues, like they struggle to find suitable employment because it's either because of a social background or lack of social capital, or those two things often go hand in hand. They also face significant life stressors, and there are a lot of mental health challenges and money worries among students. And on top of it, that's what Hazel, I could add the things you were talking about, like burnout, and that's also a really important reason or challenge that students face. If we look at employability, it's so important for the universities that students are employable, that they can demonstrate employability. And when I looked at employability literature, it says that it's important to support students' confidence, self-belief, self-efficacy through their studies. So I think these were meta-analysis from 2017. So there is this recognition there. They also say that it's important to develop students' soft skills necessary for 21st century workplace. And most recently, World Economic Forum said that in the AI-driven future, we will need creative thinking, curiosity, lifelong learning skills, resilience, flexibility, agility, motivation, and self-awareness. And they say, World Economic Forum says, these are the skills that will not be replaced by AI. So they are needed, students need them. Yet, I can't say I like this quote, it's quite depressing, but this quote is quite telling. It's from 2011, and I think it quite correctly depicts what's happening in some of the, or maybe most of the UK universities. So I will maybe not read all of it, but it basically says that there is a rise of narrow utilitarian vocationalism. The notion that the only conceivable purpose of going to university is to get the right sort of corporate job. So the universities become the training wings of international corporations, supported partly by taxpayer, but paid for increasingly by the students themselves. So the corollary of this was the denial of any notion that education was about personal development in a wider sense, the pursuit of understanding humanity and enlightenment for their own sake, which had enlivened the tradition of adult education in the humanities for a century and still endured within many universities. So what we are saying, what this quote is basically saying is that what's happening in higher education is perhaps it's walking away from this sense of empowerment, or maybe self-fulfillment, and is working towards just preparing students for corporate jobs. Therefore, in my view, the current current educational paradigm does not seem to address these issues I was talking about sufficiently. And I would propose, based on my studies, that coaching might be a way forward. Or coaching is one of the tools that can help to address these issues. It has been recognized as an effective learning tool in the literature. It can help students with their confidence, goal setting. So it goes to Oliver's earlier question, how we can help people formulating plans and implement plans and self-assess plans. So it's how we can help students with goal setting. It can help to develop soft skills. And yet, if we look across the world, there are not many universities that offer coaching to students. Coaching is offered, but mainly to faculty staff. And the part of the issue is that most universities have no funding for coaching. And I'll talk about it at the end a bit more. So in student support services funding packages, there's really no funding for coaching. So I'd like now to discuss, in summary, these 4 research studies that were conducted in a London university. It's a large, widening participation university. It means that students that come to this university are often from less privileged social backgrounds. They are often the first one to go to the university. So this is not a Russell Group university. This is not like Oxford, Cambridge, or universities that are at the top of league tables. This is a university where students students are less privileged. So the first study I'll look at is actually my PhD. So this was I can never pronounce this, longitudinal study. So I looked at benefits of career coaching. So that was it was effectively a mentoring scheme set up by this university. And I called it career coaching because when I looked at it, it was not a mentoring per se, because there were not people who were all kind of more experienced in the job of giving students advice. There were actually people who were mentoring and coaching outside of the university, and they were volunteers who were coaching and career coaching this particular student. So that was a mixed method study because I looked at students' increases in their job-seeking behaviors, in their confidence, career decision, self-efficacy, and I followed the study with interviews. And in the interviews, what came out from the interviews was that students' confidence improved, their motivation increased. They also reported increased resilience, and also an interesting one, an important one was that career coaches were perceived as role models. And this was important for this particular group of students because they didn't have role models in their own environment. And here are some quotes that illustrate these points. I think if he did it, I think I can do this as well. So it was very important to students that they could relate to their career coaches. Or he changed my way of thinking about what I can actually want to do because I understood that actually I can do something more than I was thinking. Or she changed my way of thinking, showed me that I actually can do some more. So there's a sense of encouragement. So this was a qualitative part of the study. The quantitative part, it was pre and post study, and it did not capture the effectiveness of coaching in the way I hoped. But I could still find that when I looked at the experimental group, the group that received career coaching, compared to the control group, that students' job-seeking behaviors like preparatory job search behaviors, active job search behaviors, and job search intensity increased compared to the control group. And that was also the case for maybe not active, not hugely, and that was also a case for career decision self-efficacy. So this can I do this scale. So this is the first study, and it's I hope it kind of shows that students really benefited from career coaching, yes, this type of coaching. The next one is a study that was a large for coaching, random control trial study funded by Institute of Coaching at Harvard Medical School. I cannot talk much about this study because it's still under review. And for this reason, I can only give you this information and then some quotes from students as well. So this was a pre and post study, but we conducted it over 8 data points. So we had a baseline questionnaire that looked at students, measured well-being, goal attainment, resilience, and perceived stress. And we did it over 8 data points. So after each coaching session, we repeated the questionnaire for the experimental group and the same questionnaire for the control group. And at the 8th point, 3 months after the study finished, we repeated the measures as well to see whether the results hold. And overall, we found that coach group reported increase. We found statistically, we found evidence that for this group of students, they had increased well-being, goal attainment. So they were much better at the goal setting and execution, resilience, and they perceived stress levels decreased compared to the comparison group. Yes, so this was that's what we found statistically. The differences. These students were coached by professional coaches who were paid from our funding by, so that was professional coaching delivered by coaches from Ashridge. And again, students volunteered this feedback, which I think really strongly shows how much they appreciate being given these opportunities. These coaching sessions have honestly been one of the best things the university has offered throughout my time here. I can't thank you and the team enough for the opportunity. It has given me a real understanding of what my goals are for the coming years, and my coach has been amazing. Thanks again so much. I think that the highlight of this year was, in fact, the coaching program. I enjoyed the coaching sessions I had with my coach very much. She's a lovely woman, and she helped me to break down my issues so that they were small enough for me to deal with, so I can handle both university and also my personal life. I just had my last session with my coach. I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I told my coach that I joined this research with not much hope, but I have grown a lot, way more than I expected through the sessions. And interestingly, when we finished this study, we had 102 pairs, so 102 coaches, and some of these coaches reached out to me and said, I'd like to volunteer and work with students. I found it really fulfilling, and to my, maybe not despair, it's not the right word, but close, there was no mechanism in place in universities to actually take on these coaches who wanted to do this volunteering work in order to help students. We're talking about, I think it was 2018, perhaps, I can't remember now exactly, but a few years ago, but not much has changed in that sense, because there are no structures in universities to accommodate coaching. So this was a human coaching, a random control trial, and we then repeated this study using AI chatbot. So I remember I met Nikita Blanche at a different conference, and we got together and we were going to test using the same student population, obviously not the same students, but the same population, the same university, and we replaced human coach with an AI coach. And when we did the study, AI coach was based on the GROW model, so pure goal attainment set or setting. Also 8 data points. And what we found when we finished the study, again, it was a large study, random control trial, we found that students who had a chatbot outperformed students who didn't in goal attainment. So the chatbot was effective. Having said that, I'd like to say that it's important not to get tempted perhaps by cost savings and think, okay, we can just replace human coaching with AI. I don't know if you saw a study BBC recently where it's not the solution that I'm advocating for. AI chatbot can help, and it can help in very narrow ways. It can also help with coach emulation, coach support, coach education, coaching data analysis. So it has lots of uses, what Nikita Blanche is talking about. But it's also important to know that AI coaching is not to replace human coaching. And when we look at my earlier comment about now I forgot the name of this, what can be replaced with AI, what skills cannot be replaced with AI. I think it's also human coaching cannot entirely be replaced with AI, but it's a whole topic on itself that I'm not going to discuss. But Tatiana Bahirkova talks about it a lot in her papers, also on LinkedIn, and so does Nikki. So there is a lot of discussion about this topic currently, about AI coaching. So just to make it clear, I think it's very effective, but it has a narrow use and not to be used to replace human coaching. This is not the point. So here are, so that was the third study. And here is the fourth study, which was so these were coaching workshops. So we're looking at 4 different formats: career coaching, human coaching, AI coaching, and this coaching workshops. So these coaching workshops were delivered in the same university for year 3 students, part and the coaching workshops so I didn't realize I have more time, otherwise I would give more slides, but they cover things like goal setting, resilience, growth mindset, confidence building, personal skills, assertiveness. So things that are often discussed or delivered in training programs with leaders or teams in organizations. So we designed them, and we did it for students as well, because they go into workplace, but they don't have the same set of skills, listening skills as well, and so on. So the workshops, this is a series of 5 workshops. They are 2 hours a week, and afterwards we interviewed students and asked what they found. So again, students said that it really improved their confidence, increased their self-awareness, improved their well-being, and improved goal setting. And again, you can see people were saying, I honestly feel I have more confidence in my abilities. I have applied for more jobs, internships about it. Students also, what they find really interesting is because we are talking to them about the concept of neuroplasticity of a brain, and that they are not, and also about beliefs about themselves, that these things can change and they are not set, so they can actually change their habits. It's not easy, but it's possible. And over the time, they find it really, really encouraging, because if they are not aware of this, they think this is the way I am, and there's not much I can do. So they reported that they started to feel indifferently, and they started, I was seeing rationally how things are done, how they're happening in my brain. Yes, because we also talk about brain health and eating as well, eating habits and meditation, or ways to self-regulate. And some students say, I went for swimming lessons and I started tennis lessons. So it does have, they do take these things on board. So in terms of practical implications for universities, offering coaching to students as part of education and employability strategy seems to make sense. And this is also something that I talked about in my PhD in 2018. It can be positioned as pedagogical intervention to help students transition to the workplace, or also it can be seen as a transformative human development intervention that creates positive social impact through helping young people in disadvantaged groups. And this is Kiani, I think Saba Kiani. She presented in January, she was a master's student, presented in January at Oxford Brookes. And it was a really inspiring presentation because she was talking about what's the role of coaching, but also what's the role of education. And in my opinion, there is a lot to be done in the space of a positive social impact. I think it's the responsibility of education and of coaching. And she certainly says this to help these people, these disadvantaged groups. And we often, from a coaching perspective, talk about leaders and organizations, but there's not enough talk about students who will be effectively our future leaders. So I am allocating some funding for student support services because this funding it doesn't have coaching in its package. Could be a way forward, and perhaps integrating coaching with existing well-being services that universities have, or career services. So offering one-to-one that could be one-to-one coaching, career coaching, coaching workshops, peer coaching, when students could be trained and supervised and help. So it's a bit like mentoring. And often universities have internal pools of coaches. So this perhaps also could be used to offer coaching services to students, because yes, it is time consuming, it's expensive perhaps, but it does address so many challenges that we saw earlier, or that Hazel, you were talking about perhaps, that it could help with resilience, it can help with goal attainment and with other things as well. And also there are often in the UK, universities have personal tutors or academic advisors, it's called differently. So these are lecturers who are there to support students when they go through the journey. But even if we look at solutions-focused coaching, which is a very effective way of having a discussion which is based on solution focus rather than problem focus. So when a student comes in, often it's like, oh, why didn't you submit this assignment? What's going wrong? Why are you not doing well in your overall profile? Instead of having some training, solutions focus, and changing the conversation, what your future perfect would be like, and what the smallest step you can take to kind of go towards this future, could change the whole mindset of a student. And if personal tutors, academic advisors had some awareness of skills, they could also potentially help students in terms of goal setting or motivation. And here, this is what I found in terms of potential sources for funding for student coaching. So we have in the UK, we have this UK Research Innovation, the Office for Students. I'm not saying they do offer funding for coaching, but they potentially could consider something like this. So in Australia, we have Department of Education, Skills and Coaching, Higher Education Participant Partnership Program, or in the States, we have Department of Education's Fund, and we have these non-government sources like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or UNESCO, the World Bank, and regional development banks. So these are potential sources of funding for coaching for the universities. And yes, and I think what I'm trying to say is that in the current economic and political climate, perhaps offering coaching to students in universities could be a way of investing in our future workplace and future leaders. So thank you very much for listening. Here are the references, and I think we have time for any questions.
Yes, thank you, Joanna.